Hello, Dankey Kang gang. In today's episode, we are doing a follow-up to my video, Why I'm Not an Anarchist. And so in this video, I will kind of expand on what I talked about in part 1 and just talk a little bit more about some of my problems with anarchism, just in a little bit more detail. So, my biggest problem with anarchism is how do you combat imperialism? If you don't have any kind of border, if you don't have like a state apparatus to build a military, well then how are you going to fight off against imperialism? And most people will respond that you'll have militias. Civilian armies trained and armed that would be prepared to defend their home. But to that I say, can we expect every single able-bodied person to be a fighter in this situation? I don't think so. I think you need to have a kind of professional military in order to really combat the onslaught of capitalist imperialism, because after all, they are sending well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened soldiers against you, the capitalist countries. And so your retort is to send poorly trained, poorly armed, essentially civilians to fight. And this is not a good recipe. This isn't good because, one, it relies on the civilian sector to defend themselves against imperialism. Once you are relying on the civilian sector to defend yourself, in my view, it's already sort of too late. You need to have an army. You need to have somebody willing to fight while the civilian sector of the economy goes to work every day, does their job, produces commodities, keeps the gears and mechanisms of society going while the army continues to fight. If an anarchist can hit me up in the comments and maybe explain to me how a war economy works in anarchism, I would be all ears to hear it. But my second big gripe with anarchism is, how do you produce the mass industrialization needed to produce a superabundance of commodities that you need to have a communist society? Without the apparatus of the state, you take away society's ability to put forth nationwide scale economic plans like those seen in the Soviet Union. And it was because of those plans that the Soviet Union was able to rapidly industrialize and combat Germany in the Second World War. So, and anarchist communes, there is an argument to be made that they will cooperate with one another and coordinate with one another to achieve this mass industrialization. My only concern with that is without the oversight of the Communist Party, the Vanguard Party, how in the world will the interests of these individual anarchist communes not cross one another? How will they not start to turn against one another and start to divide, essentially sowing the seeds of civil war? Because the interests of anarchist commune A don't align with the interest of anarchist commune B. Of course, in my scenario, when you had a vanguard party overseeing this, it would be able to mediate the grievances between the two and work out a mutually beneficial plan that would benefit not only both of those communes, but the state as a whole. So, if somebody wants to explain to me how you can have some kind of economic plan uh, implemented in an anarchist society, once again, I am all ears. But again, my and this kind of ties into my third complaint, which is how are you going to keep your movement pure? How, without a vanguard party to ensure ideological purity and to ensure that we keep on the path towards revolution? How do you ensure those things without a vanguard party? How do you ensure that you don't have reactionaries, capitalists, and other obstructionist chuds coming into your movement trying to do their own plan? And that, I'm not really sure how anarchists approach this, because after all, if Commune A and Commune B have disagreements over the path to socialism, like I said, that's a pathway to civil war. And if you had sort of an overseeing vanguard party, uh, in charge of that, well, then you wouldn't have that issue. So to me, this seems like an issue that arises from anarchism. So, I mean, you have to have some kind of a vanguard party to ensure ideological purity in the revolution, and to ensure that, your revolution won't be co-opted and sold out by capitalists or other reactionaries. And so the fourth main gripe I have with anarchism is that of a direct democracy. And anarchists have a lot of different opinions on democracy and how it should be implemented, but with this I simply mean every decision made by the commune is one voted on by every single constituent of that commune. It doesn't matter if the decisions affect just a few people, if it affects everybody, if it should be a decision better left to experts. Essentially, all decision making in a society falls on the masses. And while this seems like a good idea in principle, in practice, this could really bog down a lot of people's lives. I mean, after all, if you have to go to this meeting and this council meeting and that council meeting to vote on, a myriad of different issues, like do we use 1-ply or 2-ply toilet paper, your time is going to be taken up. Time that you could be spent doing something that you specialize in, special labor. So, and that's a really weird sort of argument. Another argument against this sort of like direct democracy is, if how are you going to implement those large-scale economic plans, like those 5-year plans? If you have everybody voting on these issues, well, then you'll also have people who aren't ideologically aligned with the vanguard party voting for those issues as well. And, if they are, for example, a Trotskyist or some other kind of reactionary, well, then you're kind of shooting your revolution in the foot by allowing reactionaries to have a seat at the table in terms of deciding the course that the socialist revolution goes. All this is to say, I think democratic centralism, as described in the works of Lenin, is a far more effective means at implementing economic plans, producing the mass industry needed to generate the superabundance of commodities needed for true communism, which I should remind my anarchist comrades that the end goal of Marxist-Leninism and anarchism are the same: a classless, stateless society. The only difference is that with Marx and with Lenin, they believe that you need to have this socialist phase in order to produce that kind of amount of commodities needed, where each could take according to his ability and give each according to his, or give according to his ability and take according to his need. That's the ultimate end goal of communism. And so with all this, I just want to tell my anarchist comrades that the goal is the same, the methods of getting there are different, and that is the ultimate disagreement we have. It's not something fundamental that it's not like the disagreement between communism and fascism, for example. It's something that is a difference in methodology, but not a difference in desired outcome. So all that is to say, I don't hate anarchists. I want to talk to anarchists. I'm interested in seeing what they have to say. Even though I'm a Marxist-Leninist, I think that listening to many different parts of the left can yield good viewpoints that I feel like we all need to be willing to listen. Willing to listen and willing to believe are two different things, but I am willing to listen to anarchists and consider their arguments to be in good faith. So all that is to say, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit me up, let me know what a tanky shithead I am, and how I'm not a real communist. Please do that.